Hello and welcome to today's video. My name is Jeannie. I'm a 6'2" self-projected projector. I have a defined head, ajna, throat, and G-center, and they're all connected straight down the middle channels, which are all part of individual circuitry. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the gates in the head center, and this is probably going to be a 3-part video. That way I don't go on for too long. Before I start diving into gate 63, which is the main one that we're going to do today, I'm going to talk a little bit about the head center. Now, the head center has to do with mental pressure, and it's the pressure to comprehend, to think, and to make sense of things in the world. If you have a defined head, you're going to have a defined ajna, and the pressure moves from our thoughts, the head, towards conceptualization in the ajna by pushing, because it's a pressure center, right? And it's either, depending on which gate you have, gate or gates you have defined, it's going to be pushing our questions towards formulas and opinions, our pondering towards clarification and insight, and or our confusion towards realization and ideas. Now, human design refers to this pressure as inspiration. So, first tip is whenever we're starting to feel that mental pressure, because it can be so easy to like focus on the pressure and how uncomfortable that is, can we start to substitute or kind of play with this connection of like pressure really is inspiration, maybe that's trying to come through or push through. Push, because that's the word that source material uses, is pushing. And many times we can have a lot of internal resistance to this pushing, which makes things a little bit more uncomfortable and a little bit worse. So inspiration is not a motorized energy that leads to action. And this makes sense because the head center isn't a motor, it's a pressure center. And it's not very easily connected to a motor center. There would have to be like a lot of definition in order to like connect it at some point, but it's not a motorized energy that leads to action. It's a pressure that drives our mental activity. And this can be experienced as, for example, the pressure to ask questions and expect answers. Now, the head pressures or directs mental activity to the ajna along 3 channels. Now, if you don't have your head defined, I feel like even if you still have gates defined, you can still experience that pressure. So I'm not going to go into the full channels. I'm going to focus mainly on the gates, and then maybe later down the line I will do maybe a more in-depth video with each of the channels. So each gate in the head center kind of has this keynote related to time. For example, gate 63 is related to the future, 61 is in the moment, and 64 tends to deal with the past. Okay, so like I said, in today's video I'm just going to focus on one of the gates, and then we'll do the other 2 in separate videos. But we're going to talk about 63, which is the gate of doubt. And this is suspicion or doubt that is felt as pressure. It is the readiness to pay attention to and question what feels insecure until it can be understood and evaluated in terms of our future security. Okay? Doubt arises when you see an inconsistency or weakness in the existing patterns moving life forward. Your doubt becomes an urgency to formulate a question that addresses something that isn't clear to you. So, if you don't get an adequate, logical, and workable answer to your question, this pressure and form of suspicion is going to continue to build. So if you have this gate, your focus is going to be more on the future with the ability to see patterns that exist in the present And that means that if something appears weak and doesn't stand up under the scrutiny of your logic, or if it doesn't ensure society's future, you will reject it for another pattern. So there can be this pattern of consistently looking for another pattern if the one that you're currently picking up on isn't meeting your logic, which can be quite what's the word? I was gonna use picky, but I don't like that word. That can be, well, here it says like the word it uses is scrutiny. So you're probably going to be really, really meticulous and like really selective, I guess may be a better word. So that if it doesn't pass the test of your logic, you're going to continue to keep looking for a better pattern, which can really drive that mental pressure. And without gate 4, this leads to mental anxiety. Now, from a gene key perspective, there's the shadow frequency, which can be expressed as a repressive in the repressive nature, which is essentially self-doubt. And self-doubt that manifests as comparison. And this is where you have the opportunity to see the comparison as just a mental conditioning pattern versus identifying with it and believing it. If you identify with it and believe it, then you're more likely to stay in the shadow frequency. So, yeah. And then the self-doubt leads to anxiety. Now, in the reactive nature of this shadow frequency is going to be suspicion. And suspicion is also rooted in self-doubt, but it's transformed into anger, which is then taken out on others. So hence the suspicion. You're going to be suspicious of others, always on alert, always, kind of like hyper vigilant maybe. So the key here is to create awareness around that, see like which one you tend to lean more into. And this can change, like maybe sometimes like you'll be more on the repressive side, sometimes you'll be on the more reactive side, or maybe you'll notice a pattern with like the group of people that you're around. Where do you tend to lean more towards? Like if you're with friends, are you more on the repressive side? And if you're at work, are you more at the reactive side? Feel into that. And then the gift frequency is inquiry. And this implies remaining open without finding a definitive answer to life. And another big key to be able to handling or like managing that mental pressure is channel the doubt away from your personal life and press it into service. So not using that is it confusion? Sorry, Meatball came and he distracted me. Doubt. Sorry. Not using that doubt like on your personal life or your personal things, but using it to be of service. So I have a couple of suggestions here. This is a collective on the collective circuit, specifically in the understanding sub-circuit. So when you have the full gate, I think they do recommend like brainstorming. I would recommend brainstorming even if you don't have the full, did I say full gate, full channel? Because that can help get some of that mental pressure out of your head through the form of words. Words carry energy. So I personally, this is one that I use even if I don't necessarily have this gate defined. But I don't know, I feel like as I was doing my research on these, I felt like I resonated with them all at some level. So brainstorming. if you can find someone to brainstorm with, even if it's just for 5 to 15 minutes, depending on how much time and space, this person can give you, it might be even more beneficial than if you're doing this process on your own, again, because this is a collective energy. You're going to probably feel that need, that desire to share what it is that you're finding. Another suggestion I have is to set intentions to see patterns that will satisfy your logic. Because if we go back, or if we think back a little bit to what I've already mentioned, is that if something appears weak and it doesn't stand up under the scrutiny of your logic, you're going to keep looking, right? You're going to keep looking until you find a pattern that does satisfy your logic. So, set intentions, whether you believe in a higher power, God, the universe, life, asking for life to show you a pattern that will satisfy your logic and will kind of like satiate that that need or desire to like ensure society's future, again, because this is very like future oriented and you're relying on patterns. The mind is relying on patterns in order to say, okay, we're going to be safe. And my last suggestion for this one is to find some way to externalize your findings, whether it's through journaling, speaking, movement, dance, singing. Just kind of like ask yourself what does your body feel like doing, in a way to kind of like release that mental pressure. Another one that I would suggest is using your strategy and authority if there's a doubt. If there's a suspicion or doubt that arises for you, use strategy and authority to determine whether or not you should pursue that. And then, do your best to stick with what strategy and authority have the answer that gave you. Okay, there's one more thing that I wanted to mention about gate 63. The gift is inquiry, right? When I think of inquiry, I think of asking questions and remaining open to the answers, right? Because sometimes, I don't know, from like my experience, I tend to like ask the question and then want to answer it right away. Quite impatient. So it's about learning to remain open and letting the answer kind of like find us. So if you're finding yourself that you're kind of like going through a period of doubt in itself, I don't know, okay, I got this visual of being kind of like at school, flashback to school, or maybe at work, and you're given a task and you don't really know how to complete this task or what to do. And let's say it's a school project, for example, or a work project, and you don't understand the assignment. If you don't understand the assignment, you can kind of like either go off and try to figure it on your own, or you can go to the person who gave you the assignment and ask questions in order to clarify the doubt, right? But we're asking the question and we're allowing that person that assigned the assignment to give us the answer. Okay, so there's kind of a little bit of a concept of like surrender, remaining open. Meets is coming. He's been very clingy in this video and I just don't like the claws. I like, you don't like the claws either. Okay, so if you're finding yourself that you're going through like a period of experiencing a lot of doubt, write down your questions. What questions do you have? What questions do you feel would help you clarify the doubt? And then I would pose those questions as either intentions or kind of like ask life, hey life, can you clarify this in a pleasant way? Be a little bit specific, because then life can, kind of like give you an answer a little bit in the more, I don't know, unpleasant way, but it's still going to give you an answer. So I thought that was a very interesting one, and it's also interactive because then it gets you really interacting with life, and you're kind of like curious and excited to see, oh, you know, what's going to come up, like, you know, which way is it going to come through, how are my doubts going to get clarified through inquiry, asking questions. Okay, that's it for this one, and I will be doing gate 64 and 61 in a different video, so if you're interested in that, make sure to subscribe so that you can get notified when I put new videos out there. You can also find me on Instagram, at Jeannie Salcedo is my handle. There and on my website I have more information on different ways of working with me if you feel like you're interested in that. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, insights, anything you want to share, feel free to drop it down below, or questions, and I will either answer you in the comments or maybe do another video that would answer your question. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Hello and welcome to today's video. My name is Jeannie. I'm a 6'2" self-projected projector. I have a defined head, ajna, throat, and G-center, and they're all connected straight down. Oh my god, hold on, y'all. Okay, where'd it go? Oh, we had a caterpillar. Ow, that hurt. Are you okay, little guy? Oh my gosh. Okay. This is my second time filming this because I felt like I was going too fast. Okay, little guy, come here. I'm sorry. See, there it is. Oh my gosh. Okay. I didn't want to squish it because it's a caterpillar. Like right before I came out, I was going to check the mail, and a butterfly flew out of the bushes. So, caterpillars and butterflies, those are my signs for today. Okay, he looks like he's settling. Well, let's try this again.